things. First is if you are new here or if you are joining us again, feel free to drop any questions you have in the chat or the Q&A box on Zoom. Or if you are on Clubhouse, feel free to raise your hand and I will make sure to check that at the end of the presentation during our Q&A session so that we can answer those questions. And as always, if you have questions after that you still don't feel have been answered fully or very specific to your business, you're more than welcome to reach out to me via email. So today, let's get started on today's topic. We're going to talk about how to re-engage your email list. So how do you know if you need to re-engage at all, right? How do you know if it's time to just kind of check in, maybe do a little revamp? So a couple interesting statistics that are really great to start with is looking at the average for, email marketing as a whole, but even if you can find some materials out there, which there are some about your specific industry, that can be super helpful, and just see where you fall. So if you're above average in engagement and open rates and things like that, you may not need to, re-engage in the same way that someone who may be below those levels, it might be a higher priority. So it's always great to re-engage your audience if it's been a while, just because it's nice to have that kind of fresh feeling and fresh opportunity and something fun. But on average, most email marketing teams are going to get about 15 to 25% on their open rate. So if you have something lower than that, you might want to kind of check some of these options out. And if you have something higher, again, still a great option to kind of check it out, see how you can engage those people who aren't engaged on your list. The other stat that's really helpful to know is that an average of 2.5% of people will click somewhere in your email campaign. So if you're finding that your average click rate is lower than that, and it kind of feels like, oh my gosh, it's 2.5%. How could it get any lower? It can. And so if you're lower than that, or if you really just want to see a higher click rate or a higher open rate, we're going to talk about some ways that you can practically do that. So those are just a couple kind of key indicators. Another thing that I like to do is just see who's opening the email, right? Who's clicking on things. If it's the same few people every single time, that's telling me that there's a lot of people on my list who are not engaged. And so I just like to kind of double check and click in on those things. And so why is this important? Why do you want to make sure that you have an engaged subscriber base? Because any of those unengaged subscribers are going to end up costing you money because, especially if your email provider, charges you by the number of subscribers or contacts or emails you send, every time you send those out, you're getting charged for them, right? So whatever that monthly rate is, or whatever that amount is, you're going to get charged for them. So if someone is on your list that doesn't have any interest in what you're doing, it's time to get them off, right? So that they're not costing you any money or costing you any time, that you're able to have people on your list who really care and want to be there and want to engage with you. All right, so let's talk about how to kind of rekindle that flame. So there are 5 ways I want to talk about doing that today. The first one that we're going to cover is sending a survey with a small reward. So kind of incentivizing people to engage, asking if they want to unsubscribe and then deleting them if they either don't engage or they say no. Asking your subscribers to update their information is another really great way to re-engage with them. Sending a personalized invitation to re-engage with your list, which doesn't mean emailing everyone individually, but finding some personalized ways to have that conversation over email. And then lastly, to kind of just analyze the content that you're currently sending. So maybe there's some things that you can do on your end to make your content more exciting and to incentivize people to want to open your emails every week or every month or however often you send them. So those are the 5 things that we're going to touch on today. All right, so that first one, surveys and rewards. So this one is actually a really great opportunity for a variety of reasons, but to re-engage definitely is probably going to get you the highest return, just in the sense of people actually engaging. So having a survey, I typically like to use something like Typeform, but you could also use Google Form if that's something simple and easy for you. Typeform is great because it's a more interesting and interactive form, and you can really personalize it in a way that Google Forms isn't, but Google Forms is also great. So this is another opportunity as well to learn something new about your subscribers. So this is where you can get some information that will help you to not only create better content for them, but also possibly get to know them a little bit better. What do they care about? What are some interesting facts about them? What are some ways that you can personalize your content even more based on what you collect from this survey? So a couple questions that you can ask are, what type of content are you most interested in getting? This could be anything from, what you're writing about, what you're sharing, to, would they rather read? Would they like to get a video every week? Do they want to focus on practical things like tips and tricks? Are we looking at kind of this higher level conceptual stuff? Are there specific tools that they want you to be recommending, that kind of stuff? How do they want to consume your content, and what kind of content do they want to consume? So that's one question that you could ask. Another question that you could ask is, what day of the week do you like to receive newsletters? You can be as forward as that and just say, hey, am I sending this at a good time during the week? Is there a better time that I could be sending these emails? If you're sending them on Mondays, which I do, and that was something I considered, was, do I want to send these on Monday mornings, or do I want to send them on a different day? And I ultimately decided on sending them on Mondays, partly because that's just the day I like. And also I know that people are reading their emails. So if I can get in on a Monday morning and be something helpful and good and exciting in their inbox, I'd have that opportunity, and it gives me the opportunity to market things at the beginning of the week that are going to be happening later in the week, right? So that's part of the reason I chose that day. But I have a client that we send out Friday emails, right? So I was working on it this afternoon and preparing that. Actually, 2 clients that we do Friday, kind of like roundup emails, and that's kind of fun. And the trick with that is to send it at just the right time, which is that third question you could ask is, what time of the day are you typically reading these emails or wanting to read these newsletters? There's some days for me, I a lot of times will read the newsletters I'm subscribed to when I'm drinking my morning coffee. And so if they're coming in at like 12 or 3 o'clock or whatever, I'm not going to be reading them. Or if I do, I'm reading them the next morning. And so, thinking about some of your subscribers as well as, do you like, based on what maybe that some of your subscribers tend to open these emails early, or they prefer to work late at night, or whatever it is. These are questions that you can ask to get some definitive data on that. And then the fourth question, and these are just ideas, you can ask as many questions as you want. I would advise at least 5 or less. But the fourth question that you could ask is, what's one thing you'd like to see more from us? So maybe there's one thing that you do really, really well that people really enjoy, but you just don't know. And so by asking them, what would you like to see from us? Is there something that we can do better? Just kind of getting some information from them and allowing them to tell you what they want. And then this is where the reward part comes in, right? So doing something as small as like a $5 gift card. So a couple options could be Starbucks gift card, Amazon gift card, Target, Dunkin' Donuts, something that you can send digitally that you could just take a little bit of time one day out of the week and just send them over to people who have completed the surveys. That's a really great incentive to get people to actually do them. Now, obviously, you're probably thinking, well, I don't want to send, $5 to 200 people, if that's, how many people are on your list. But the good news is it's likely that you're only going to get about 3% response from your list, right? So I would just do the math and say, okay, do I have it in my budget? And is this high enough priority for me and my team that we want to invest these $5 or however much money that would end up being if, 3, 5, or 10% of your list responded? Is that going to be, something that we can do? And is it worth it? Now, it's great to be able to have that, planned, that, best case / worst case scenario is everybody on your list answers, and now you have 200 people that you owe $5 gift cards to. You want to make sure that that's something that you can do just in case, but the likelihood of that happening is really, really small, especially if people are already not engaged on your list. It's likely the people who are engaged or the people who are just starting to disengage who will respond. The people who are already kind of on their way out the door, this may just be something that might pique their interest or might just remind them to unsubscribe, right? So this is just a great way to really incentivize and in some ways thank your current and active subscribers. So just something to think through. Definitely doesn't have to be something big and extravagant. $5 is great. And I would love to have a $5 gift card to any of these places. So something to consider, and definitely to think through what's best for you. All right, the next option that we want to talk about is what I call ask and delete. So this is where you essentially identify your unengaged subscribers. So this is where you might look and see, okay, have they opened the last 3 emails I've sent? Have they opened the last 6? Just pick an amount of time essentially and see when was the last time they opened something from you. And if it was, beyond that deadline that you set, that's considered, an unengaged subscriber. Put them on a segmented list, right? So create that segment to email them. That's a second step. And segment them from the rest of your audience. And then once you've done that, craft an email and send it to them, essentially asking if they want to say subscribed. You could keep it really simple, but kind and direct, right? Saying something like, hey, we haven't seen you in a while, wanted to make sure that you are still interested. If you are, click this button and you'll stay subscribed. If not, do nothing and we'll delete you at the end of the week. So let them know how long they have, right? And let them know that you are going to delete/unsubscribe them. And just let it be really, really simple and easy for them to do that. So like I said, wait a week. And I say a week because most people are going to look through their emails throughout the week, right? Even if we have 3,000 emails in our inbox, if they see it at some point in that week, they're going to make some kind of choice, whether to ignore it or to open it. And especially if you have, a subject line of like, hey, we're unsubscribing you, or, respond or be, unsubscribe, things like that. That can be super helpful. And then it just tells you, okay, I'm going to go in and anybody who did not open this, they're getting booted off the list. And so just take the time, sit down and remove everybody from that list. So that's a really, really simple way to do it. But it does take a little bit more of an action on your end, right? So the next one that I want to talk about is updating accounts. And this is a great way where you can kind of give your subscribers the power and the responsibility of subscribing or unsubscribing, right? So this is a great way to not only get your unengaged subscribers to kind of re-engage, but also to just get some more information about your current subscriber base. So, you could set up a survey or something simple like that, without that incentive, and just get them to put their name, their up-to-date email, and then ask them something about themselves. Do they like coffee more than tea? What's one of their favorite ways to celebrate something? What is something they're really excited in learning about? Or, something little and small, and you're collecting this information to create a better, more human experience. So, let's say I create a form builder and I say, okay, here, put your name, put your email. Are you interested in learning about X, Y, or Z? Do you want to be subscribed to our mini sessions? And then also, do you like coffee? Yes or no, right? So a lot of those are yes or no answers, really simple. And I can do a lot of things with that information, right? So I can have them subscribe to the newsletter that they're already subscribed to. If they're not already subscribed to the mini sessions and they want to be, that they say, yes, I do want to be subscribed to those sessions, I can then actively subscribe them. And then if I know that they like coffee, then maybe later down the line, I might want to re-engage with some people, right? And I might segment them and say, okay, who are people who have opened the last 10 newsletters that I've sent and like coffee? Okay, I'm going to create this list, and then I'm just going to send them a $5 Starbucks gift card to just say, hey, thanks for being on this list. I'm glad you're here. I appreciate you. You're valuable. How incredible would that be, right? To get that from somebody that you follow, and you just, get that email. Or, let's say they are segmented by, they want to learn more about social media. That's something they really want to know more about. I can say, ooh, okay, let me send them a free, ebook, or maybe a free template on how to create a really great social media campaign for something. And I can send that off to them, right? And so it doesn't require anything from them other than just being on the list. So this is where getting some of that information can be really helpful and help you to stand out from every other email that's coming through their inbox, right? So those are just a couple of ideas, but this is great. And so as people update their accounts, you can take that information and, put it back into your email system. Sometimes your email provider might have it where you can just have them automatically update things. But if you can create the separate survey, you have that extra information that you can then import into your software, and then you have it in there and it can update it. And if people didn't fill it out, or if someone said unsubscribe, you can just make sure that they're unsubscribed. So there's a lot of cool opportunities with this one that definitely I recommend utilizing. All right. So this one, send a personalized invitation. So it's similar kind of to what we've been talking about, but it's a little bit more direct. So personalization goes a long, long way. And this example is much more of human, not like humanized kind of content. But if they had said like, hey, Hannah, that definitely would have caught my eye. And that's not something they have to manually do. A lot of service providers, you can now put in just like a little, even like at first name, and that'll pull directly from that subscriber's information, the name of that person. So this example says, well, look who finally opened my email. So there's that sass, right? And that's the hustle. So the hustle is what I'm subscribed to, and they're sassy, they're sarcastic, they're kind of pointed and very direct. And so they're sending me this email basically saying, hey, our intern Kyle's really bummed that you're not opening our emails. What's going on? How, like, you can totally unsubscribe, but like, we want to give you a chance to help out Kyle and make his life not terrible, right? That's like super different than any other email I get. And while it still doesn't have me opening their emails, mainly because I get a lot of different emails that have a lot of the same content, and I just need to decide which ones I like best. This did make me stop and pause, right? I mean, it caused me to want to talk about it here with all of you. And so this is something that you could definitely do, obviously sticking to your brand and to your kind of voice and tone. So for example, if I wanted to do this with my newsletters, I'm a little cheeky sometimes and a little, I try to be personable in my emails, but I'm not nearly this direct typically. And so I would probably be something like, say something like, hey, Tammy, I haven't seen you in a while. I wanted to make sure that you still wanted to be on our email list. If not, here's where you can unsubscribe. But if so, we would love to see you back here next week. Something like that, where it's kind of calling someone out saying, hey, you haven't been opening our emails. What's going on? How can we help? Maybe that's where you can offer something and say, stick around and you can get more resources like this, freebie, whatever. Or, take this survey and tell us how we can make this more interesting for you. Like whatever it is, you can send that kind of personal invitation to re-engage and kind of let them see a little bit of your human side and a little bit of your personality. So this one I would definitely say, is fun. It's simple. It's easy. It doesn't cost you anything. But you want to make sure you do it right, because it could also be off-putting. Right. So someone could send this to someone who's like, wow, that's rude, or like, don't make me feel guilty, like, who doesn't take it the way that it should be. And so just be thoughtful about your language and that it's matching your brand. But overall, it's a great opportunity to kind of stand out from the rest of the world and say, hey, we see you. We know that you haven't opened anything. We want you to engage. We don't want you to just be a number on our list. So that's something that's kind of interesting and fun that would definitely be worth playing around with as well. All right. And so this last one, analyzing your current content. So kind of like I mentioned at the beginning, just making sure that the content you're providing is what people want. And that also you have been creating content that stays true to that initial promise, right? So there's a reason that people subscribed, whether it's a freebie that they downloaded or, wanting to get your blogs or getting video or training or whatever it is. People subscribe for a reason. So make sure to reflect on what it is that you originally promised and make sure that your content is living up to that. Other things to check out are, which links are being clicked most often. So I do on my, weekly newsletter, it's basically my blog. And then I do a promotion for these mini sessions. And then I have like a roundup of just some interesting articles that I think would be helpful to people. And then there's right now the promo for a free website audit. And then there's just my signature and some Instagram, right? And so a lot of people will click on my blog post content, right? And they'll click on the mini sessions. A lot of people will sign up for these mini sessions through my newsletter, which is awesome. But not as many people will always click on those extra links I'm putting in there for news stories, right? And part of it's probably because they're at the bottom, they're very small, they don't stand out. And so that's where I have to kind of analyze and think, okay, is that content valuable? Am I presenting it in a good and helpful way? Is it worth keeping? And if my answer is no, it's not worth keeping, then I can remove it and put something else in, or I could just kind of play around with it. So ask yourself kind of what's being clicked on, what are people caring about? And then asking yourself like, why? Could it be that it's just too low, like the message is too long? Or could it be that it's really just not interesting to the audience? So that's something to think about too. Then also look at like who's opening your emails regularly. Are they your ideal client? So my mother is incredible. She supports me in everything I do. She opens every email I send. She attends every Zoom mini session, and I absolutely adore it and adore her for it. And she is one of my clients. And so that's wonderful, but she's also my mom. So I know that she's opening it and reading it and all that kind of stuff, but is my ideal client also doing that? Someone who doesn't have that maternal connection to me. And so if my answer is yes, which it is, thankfully, most of my clients open my emails, and a lot of people who fit under that category of ideal client are also opening them. And so that's just something to look at too. Are there people on your list who are people you want to work with, or the type of people you would want to work with? Or are they people who are maybe opening your emails just for whatever reason? And it's not necessarily a bad thing. Getting people to read your content is wonderful, but just something to think through is, what's the purpose of the email, and are the right people opening it and getting their eyes on it? And then the last question is, how can I spice things up if I've fallen away from that initial purpose? So maybe, it's just gotten into this rhythm. I know that's been something for me that I've really been working on is, okay, I know this routine I have, I've been doing this for a while, and I do it for my clients and not just my business. And so I have to be very careful that I don't let my content get lazy, right? Or let it get stale. And so I'm exploring even like, let me see if I can restructure my email. Maybe there's a better way I can present that information. So just some like little things that you can look at and say, okay, does this fit my brand? Or is there a way I can adjust this and just make this more interesting? So definitely kind of doing that self-reflection and saying, okay, what can I do on my end to make this a more engaging email for my readers? All right, finally, we are at the Q&A session. So if you have any questions, we've got a few minutes here to go through them. I know we have one here. Okay, Tammy, you asked, how do you set that up? Where does the click on the button go? So I think you asked that when we were talking about that ad, ask and delete. So, if someone clicks on a button and says, hey, yes, keep me subscribed. So for me, what I do is I honestly just have it go to a GIF, like a yay, thanks for sticking around. And then my analytics on the back end will tell me who clicked on that link. So that's how I personally do it. I'm sure there are other ways that you could set up different things to go to a different form, or to, I feel like MailChimp has like an update your, update your information, and you could just basically kind of do two birds, one stone of like, yes, I want to stay subscribed. Okay, awesome. Now click here to update your info. So those are some of the options there, but I like to just keep it kind of fun and simple, and then just look back through and filter by who clicked on that specific link. So some of it depends upon what system you're using, but that's a great question. All right, let's see other questions here. Let's see if we have anyone in Clubhouse asking. Okay. Oh, great question. Okay. So what are your tips for good subject lines? Ooh, that's a great question. So I would say, think about what would make you stop in your inbox and want to open something. So nothing too flashy or crazy, right? You don't want to like overpromise something. Be like, this is the one thing that you have to do to be perfectly happy forever. Like that cannot be found in an email. But it could be something like, 3 tips to drastically increase your following, or here's how to like I recently sent an email, I think a newsletter that talked about like how we gained 500 new Facebook followers and like 2,500 email subscribers in 30 days, right? So that's really interesting. And that's going to get someone to want to click on that. So something that will really pique people's interest. I like to add at least one emoji to it sometimes because that also will help you stand out. I mean, more and more people are doing that, but typically people, that'll, if you put a star, or I like to put a coffee cup, it's just something that kind of breaks the eye line and says, oh, this is something different. So definitely check that out. And then I think there's, I think CoSchedule has a like headline analyzer, an email subject analyzer. So just Google email analyzer or email subject line analyzer and see what pops up, because there's definitely a couple services out there that you can kind of check and see, and they give you a grade or a rating essentially. And then I would say, you could even just track and see, go back through and see, okay, which emails performed the best, what were their subject lines? And if that was the only differentiating factor, right? If you sent the same type of email on the same day at the same time, and the only thing that changed is the subject line, see which one of those had the best open rate, and think about, could that have been part of the reason? Sometimes it's just a happy fluke, and other times it's like, oh no, that was just a really great subject line. So this is a great question. All right, let's see. I think we've got, that's all our questions so far. Last chance to ask some questions before we wrap things up. Awesome. Okay. So as we're wrapping up, let me click here. So next week, we're going to be talking about social media and how it actually helps your business grow. So I've been doing this work for a couple years now, full time, and I've been working with social media in different varieties of ways for the last like 5-6 years or something crazy like that. Feels like it's forever. So I'm going to be talking about basically everything I've learned about how it really helps you grow your business and how to approach it. And I do want to remind you guys, I'm still doing those free website audits. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure to request one of those through the link in the follow-up email, and invite a friend. Feel free to invite someone to join us next week as we talk through these things, or, forward them the recording and that kind of stuff. I love seeing new names and new faces. Well, I guess not faces. I like to think that they're faces within these names, obviously, that I'm talking to you guys. So I like to see new people here each week. It's super fun for me, and to see people return every week as well. So definitely feel free to invite a friend. And if you want to join me on Clubhouse, or if you just want to join on Clubhouse, shoot me an email as well, and I can give you an invite. So thank you guys so much for joining me this week. I'm super excited you were here. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.